knackered, I'm tired, but I am in Israel and I'm just on the border of Jerusalem, which is just over there. So I'm on a day tour. I could have done this by myself, but I thought I'll do a day tour. It'd be easier to get there, and at least I'll learn a little bit about the old city of Jerusalem. And we're also going to head to Bethlehem afterwards. So I thought that'd be interesting to see. Even though I'm not a religious person, I still think it's quite interesting learning about the history behind it all. So I flew into Tel Aviv, and I'm staying in Tel Aviv, which seemed like quite a good place to stay. But my flight was delayed yesterday. I had to get up at like 5:30 this morning to make it up this tour, so I'm tired. But hopefully, as the day goes by, I will wake up a little bit. I'm currently going through the Christian quarter, and there's 4 different sections. There's Christian quarter, the Jewish quarter, the Armenian quarter, and the Muslim quarter. So it's just a marketplace at the moment. There's not too much open, I guess, because it's still quite early. Hopefully I'll have time to pick up a souvenir at some point. What's really weird is it's actually a lot more modern than I thought it would be. There's even a JFC. I'm sure I had a JFC when I was in Indonesia, but a different type of JFC. But yeah, it just seems a lot more modern. There's like people just living here in the modern day, which I guess makes sense. Maybe maybe I expected something I don't know. Things here just seem a lot more modern than I was expecting them to be. But it's interesting. I mean, there's sort of like the old city, but like new shops within the old city, which I guess would make sense. So I'm now about to enter the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I've pronounced that wrong, I know. It's the Church of the Ascension. This is apparently where Jesus was crucified and buried. So why it's called the Church of the Ascension, I'm not totally sure, because Mount Olive, which is not far from here, there was also a Church of the Ascension where Jesus was said to have ascended to heaven. So this here is the tomb, or it was the tomb of Jesus Christ. But there's a massive queue to get in. I think it's about 3 hours to get in there. Obviously he's not there anymore. Well, it depends what you believe, but it used to be a cave, and that's where the boulder was rolled against the cave where his body was left. Then Mary Magdalene came by, I think on a Saturday, because he was crucified and died on the Friday. She came by on a Saturday, the boulder had moved and the body was gone. Then she was told by an angel disguised as a gardener that Jesus had ascended to heaven. There's a few other places to see around this church. This is the stone where Jesus' body was laid on. So people come here to bless things. So if you've got any kind of cross or water or anything like that, you can bless it on the stone and it becomes holy. It becomes a religious relic. Right, so it's quite dark over here, but people are queuing up. I mean, I could queue up, but am I going to? I've got 10 minutes and I've got to get back to my tour group, and the queue's not moving very quick. People are basically going to their knees just over here in front of me, and they're putting their head down on this thing, because apparently Jesus was crucified above the skull of Adam, like being the first sinner or something to do with that, the original sin with Adam eating the apple and all of that stuff. So for some reason the skull of Adam was underneath Jesus, and it has something to do with the people that are putting their heads onto whatever they're putting their heads on for some sort of blessing. So I did try to take in what I could, but I don't think I've taken enough in. So we're basically going along some of the route, but in the reverse order to how Christ would have done it, as to when he walked with the cross up to where he was crucified. So there's many different stations. We just went to station 6, and station 6 is where a woman felt sorry for him, put a cloth over his face, made an imprint, which I know as the Shroud of Turin. This one is station 5, where a guy called Simon Cyrano, he actually helped Christ carry the burden of the cross temporarily. And apparently here, this is where Christ lost his balance, touched the wall, and this is known as the hand of Christ, and it's meant to be good luck for Christians to touch it. This is one of the most famous sites in the old city of Jerusalem, and it's the Western Wall. also known as the Wailing Wall. So the ladies have to go on the right hand side, gentlemen have to go on the left hand side, and what you can do here is you can go up to the wall, you can say prayers, you can talk to the wall, you can also write a blessing and put the blessing in the wall. However, as a man you have to wear a cap. I haven't actually got my hat with me today, unfortunately. I don't know if that would have counted, but there are 3 caps that you can pick up and wear. And here I am with my cap. I just need to find where to get the paper from to write a blessing. Well, can I find paper? No, I could not find paper. So the only thing I can do now is just go into my travel journal and rip out a page. Now I have some paper. Put my blessing, fold it up, approach the wall and stick it into the wall. So as you can see, all the various different blessings that have been left here in the past. I don't know how long they last in the wall for, maybe forever, who knows. So it's especially busy today, mainly because it's the last day of, oh god, it's Sukkah, and tomorrow is going to be like some sort of big holiday of some sort, so I just hope things are open tomorrow. But yeah, it's an interesting place to visit. I'm not a religious person. The whole thing about seeing where Jesus was apparently crucified, well, I think he probably was, because I think there's good enough evidence to suggest there was a man called Jesus. Whether or not he was the Son of God, it's down to what people believe. But it was quite interesting to see that, but I find this even more fascinating. The Western Wall just seemed like a really, I can't explain it. It seemed like quite a spiritual sort of place. And yeah, it's just a strange but cool. It's a really cool place to see. So I'm on the rooftop of a restaurant where we just had lunch. Wasn't the best lunch, it wasn't awful, but 25 quid for all you can eat buffet, but I didn't really have that much and there wasn't much of a choice, to be honest. So I think we're heading on to Bethlehem after this, which is a shame because we've been here for a few hours, but there's a lot more that I could see that I haven't had time to. So obviously over there we had the church where Jesus was crucified and buried. There's a Tower of David somewhere, but I don't think it's that one. I think the Tower of David's the other side, and it's a museum. But the Western Wall, I probably found to be the most interesting place because of all the people saying their prayers as you went over there. However, the Golden Dome is the Dome of the Rock, which is a mosque, but because it's a holy day today, it's a special day, it's like the end of this big holiday, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like Sukkah or something. There are certain days you can't go in there due to people praying and having ceremonies, and today is one of those days, unfortunately. And the other place, there is a site just outside the walls where it's meant to be the site of the Last Supper, which again could have been quite interesting to see. So I'm now in Bethlehem, which is kind of a last minute decision to book this tour to also stop off here. I never imagined I'd ever be visiting Bethlehem. I don't know if there's too much here, but we're heading over to the Church of the Nativity, which is the place where Jesus was born, in the stable. Apparently the stable was actually inside a cave somewhere, and now there's a church there. So it'll be interesting to see. So that's the spot. So that's the spot where Jesus was born, inside a stable, inside a cave in Bethlehem. So what's quite interesting around here as well is that I'm now actually in Palestine. So although it's sort of Israel, it's sort of Palestine, it's confusing. I didn't know anything about this, but they were saying something on a tour bus about Palestine maybe becoming independent and being recognised as a separate country. So I didn't know about that, so maybe Palestine will become a new country. Less than 1% of the population here are Christians in Palestine, in Bethlehem, and a lot of that is due to all the wars, all the problems there's been over the years. I mean, it's not just the issues you have now between Israel and Palestine. There's been wars and problems for years and years and years. So a lot of the Christians that were Palestinian, a lot of them have left the country and have not returned. it's quite sad to think that the place that was the birth of Christ has less than 1% of Christians here. It's certainly quite shocking. It's about midday. I've only just woken up, but I needed to sleep. I mean, okay, I had a late night last night, but the last few nights I just haven't had very much sleep at all, so I did need some sleep. So I'm heading into the older area of Tel Aviv known as Jaffa. I'm not staying too far away from here. A couple of things I want to see here. So yeah, last night was good. I went to an Irish pub as usual. Football was on to start with, which is a bit boring, but a bit later on I got chatting to this really nice Israeli family. Then I met a Russian guy who basically escaped the war in Russia to live here, and as he's Jewish, it's easy for him to do so, and he can get a passport here eventually. And we ended up heading to another bar, which I think might have been a gay bar, but I had a really good time in there because I had karaoke. As soon as I walked in, saw the karaoke, fantastic. I was looking for a karaoke place, I couldn't find anywhere, and then just by pure luck, we ended up in a karaoke place. The first stop in Jaffa is the suspended orange tree. But basically it's an orange tree, just obviously not in season, which is suspended off the ground. I'm not entirely sure why, but it looks pretty cool. It's a really nice place, and I've only just been walking for 5 minutes, but just sort of oldie worldy vibe. And then obviously Uri Geller monument of some sort. Obviously he was a complete fraud. To start with, I wasn't sure what the monument was. Now I understand. It's a bent spoon. There's the bend in the spoon, and there's the main part of the spoon. Not only is it just a monument here, but I've just realised there is the Uri Geller Museum, which I don't particularly like the guy because I think he's a fraud, and as a magician I don't believe it's right to lie to people about those kind of things, so I will not be going in. So this place is quite interesting. This is the house of Simon the Tanner. So I've never heard of Simon the Tanner before, but it was here that he hosted Pete the Apostle, and it was here that Pete raised Tabitha from the dead. I'm sure I've heard of Pete the Apostle, I don't know who Tabitha is. She was raised from the dead. Simon also had a vision here because he was Jewish. He had a vision that he was allowed to eat meat, which a lot of Jewish people thought was wrong, and that's what kind of turned Simon into a Christian, and he helped spread the Christian religion. And there in the distance you can see the beach and the more touristy area, well, I'd say more touristy area of Tel Aviv. The reason why a lot of, at least British tourists, I think, come to Tel Aviv is for the beach. God, it is hot. It is hot today. I think it's about 30 degrees. I really should put some shorts on. Anyway, I'm now at the famous clock tower of Tel Aviv. But what's quite interesting is what's on the door, which I'm not entirely sure what is on the door, apart from the donkey. That, I guess, is Mary and Joseph on a donkey. That could represent the three kings, maybe. That's a camel. No, it's not a donkey, it's a camel. It's got humps. In that case, I have no idea what it represents, but I'd love to find out. So, I think I'm on my last stop of sights to see in Tel Aviv. There wasn't a great deal to see here. I'm sure there's lots more to see, but from what I had planned and what was nearby, there wasn't lots, but I certainly think Jaffa was the best place. It was a really pretty place. This is called Tachana Station, which is now converted into lots of restaurants and bars and shops nearby. But it used to be a train station. This was like the main train station building, and obviously there's still some train cars here. But it's so hot, and I really should have worn shorts, so I think I'm going to spend the rest of the day chilling out because I have long, busy days ahead of me when I get to Jordan.